Can you say hi? Wave hi. Say, I'm Emmy, and I'm going to help today. And today, we need to get out our paper again. And can you point and say, we need to write a little bit more about Odysseus. And we're also going to learn about Agamemnon and Menelaus, okay? So, can you say Odysseus? Odysseus, yes. Can you say Penelope? Yes. With a mouthful of cracker. Can you say, I love you? Yeah. All right. Say, do your homework. Can you say, do your homework? All right. Say bye. Bye. Let's take a look at Odysseus' backstory. Remember that Homer first spoke Odysseus into existence about 8th century BCE. Since that time, his story has been adapted, added to, clarified until this day. Now, most of us know the story of the Trojan horse, Odysseus' scheme that is credited with ending the Trojan War. And most of us know the story of the Cyclops, Poseidon's son Polyphemus, whom Odysseus blinded. But did you know that some myths attribute Odysseus and not Helen with launching 1,000 ships? So to understand that, we need to back up even more to Zeus, Helen's father. Now, remember how the gods will interact with capricious reasons? Zeus saw the beautiful Leda down on earth, transformed into a swan, and came down to earth to be with her. Trouble was, she was already married to King Tyndareus. The myths say that she had 1 or 2 eggs. One egg hatched into Helen and the other into Castor of Castor and Pollux fame. A sister joined the family, Clytemnestra, who was beautiful in her own right. So when Helen grew up and to age to be married, all of the great kings vied for her hand. Odysseus, Menelaus, king of Sparta, Ajax the Greater, Ajax the Lesser, Achilles, and maybe even King Agamemnon himself. So what was Tyndareus to do? No matter who he chose to be Helen's husband, he would anger the other kings, and you don't want kings mad at you. So Odysseus, wise man that he was, knew that if he were to marry Helen, he would spend the rest of his life fighting off the men who wanted to be with the most beautiful girl in the world. So he set his sights on another beautiful girl, Penelope, daughter of Icarius. So he tells Tyndareus that if the king will use his influence to convince Icarius to give Penelope's hand to Odysseus, the king of Ithaca would give Helen's father a way out. Now you try to say that 3 times fast. Tyndareus agreed. Odysseus advised him to make all the other suitors swear an oath on the river Styx, an unbreakable vow that they would defend the marriage with their lives. They agree, and Tyndareus chooses Menelaus. But love is in the air. Okay, Menelaus marries Helen, and they have a daughter, Hermione, who's about 8 years old when Helen leaves for Troy. Agamemnon marries Clytemnestra, and they have a daughter, Iphigenia, and Odysseus marries Penelope, and they have a son, Telemachus. So, fast forward, all goes well until Menelaus and Helen invite a young Trojan prince, Paris, into their house, and I'll tell that story a little bit later. When Menelaus leaves on a trip, Paris and Helen run away together in one version. Paris abducts Helen in another version. The gods are behind it in another version. But regardless, they leave for Troy. Menelaus has to defend his honor and go off to war, and so they invoke the oath of Tyndareus. All right, big brother Agamemnon makes it ready to go, but somehow he accidentally kills Artemis's beloved deer, and she is angry. She refuses to let the trade winds blow. So Agamemnon does what all good fathers would do. He sends for his daughter Iphigenia with the thought that she would marry Achilles, but instead he decides to sacrifice her to Artemis. In some myths, she's not sacrificed, but Artemis comes in at the last moment and saves her right before she's to be killed. But needless to say, this does not sit well with Clytemnestra. So during the Trojan War, she has a relationship with Odysseus, even though Zeus sends Hermes to warn him not to dally with another man's wife. But he doesn't listen. And after 10 years at war, Agamemnon returns home to a hero's welcome. But in the Odyssey, Menelaus tells young Telemachus that Clytemnestra gets her husband and soldiers drunk and slaughters him at his own dinner table. Others have him killed in his own bath. But regardless, he is killed. And Orestes, his son, grows up later to avenge his father's death, and he kills both Odysseus and his mother Clytemnestra. Regardless, Odysseus visits Agamemnon in the underworld, and the dead king warns the soldier to test his wife and servants upon his return. Advice Odysseus takes. Now, in one version of the story, called The Trojan Women, a play by Euripides, Odysseus actually has the only son of his enemy, Hector, thrown off the battlements, and it's this horrible scene where the mother is pleading for her son's life. I particularly don't like this version of the story because I don't think it's in keeping with Odysseus, and it was written many years later, but you might come across it. All right, despite coming up with the oath of Tyndareus, Odysseus doesn't want to follow it himself. His son is just an infant. He doesn't want to leave the child and the woman he loves. But when Agamemnon and Menelaus come to get him, Odysseus was plowing in the field, pretending to be mad, hitching up a horse and oxen and growing crazy, tearing up the fields. But then Agamemnon grabbed the little baby and put him in front of the plow. Odysseus had to swerve to avoid running over the baby. He did. The two brothers know that he was indeed Odysseus, and off to Troy they went. So that's some of Odysseus' story. We're back here again. Say hi.
Owie.
Owie. Oh, I'm sorry, I squished her knee. All right, so, Amy, what did you learn? Did you learn about the oath of Tyndareus? Did you write down about the capricious nature of the gods and how they just do things for their own enjoyment? You did? Did you write down that women had limited voice? And did you talk about the law of hospitality? See, the law of hospitality was a very important concept in the Greek society because you had to rely on the hospitality of people as you traveled. If you didn't, then you wouldn't be able to survive. So when Menelaus opened his home to Paris, and then Paris abused that hospitality by stealing away with his wife, not a good thing, okay? So we're going to learn about the law of hospitality as we continue through the Odyssey. All right, so next time what we're going to do is we are going to focus on the Trojan backstory. Can you say Odysseus?
Odysseus.
Yes, and we're going to focus specifically on Paris. Can you say Paris? Paris, that's right. So until then, bye-bye. Can you say bye-bye? All right, thanks for joining us.